Another trailer, another analysis. After Kingdom Hearts 3 released, a lot of people were disappointed by how much the trailers had shown of the game. If you were one of those people that still haven't seen the trailer, you might want to skip it, since it definitely gives an idea of what the DLC is about story-wise. With that little warning out of the way, let's jump right into it. The first couple of scenes shows the demon tornado from the Keyblade graveyard, while some text appears on the screen. We'll take these scenes a little later to get a better idea of who is speaking and what we can extract from it. The next couple of scenes is of Axel wielding his old chakrams. If you didn't pay attention to his fighting style in Kingdom Hearts 3, it might come as a surprise to see him using them, as he didn't do it in any of his cutscenes. He did use them as a Keyblade transformation in his fights though. The scenes appear to be of how the fight between Axel, Kairi, Saïx and Xian started. In it, Axel and Kairi notice how Xian's Keyblade is the same as Sora's. Axel starts to ask if she is, and then trails off. He might have meant Xian, even though he doesn't quite remember who she is yet. Next we see what looks to be like a limit attack with Axel, Roxas and Xian. This definitely feels like gameplay because of the animation and effects, but it's hard to determine who exactly we're playing as. Because of the camera, I'm inclined to say it's Axel. If that's true, then it's very exciting news, as in the last trailer we saw Roxas was playable as well. The perfect scenario would of course be if all the Guardians of Light, including Xian and Roxas, are playable. As for how Axel, Roxas and Xian can be fighting together when they never did in the game, there is a theory called the Coda theory that tries to explain this. The short version is that Sora travels back in time again to try to save Kairi. This could be why he is missing from some of the fights, as he could be elsewhere trying to track down Kairi and prevent her fate. The timeline could be that he helps Mickey and Riku as Kairi isn't in trouble yet, and then goes to help Axel and Kairi. Sora could then prevent Axel from getting hurt and then leave the fight to the Sea Salt trio and head after Kairi. This explains why he isn't present when Aqua and Ventus are fighting. After that small gameplay segment, we jump straight into a story cutscene that I guess takes place right after Sora uses the power of waking at the end of the game. This case is based on the dialogue where Sora asks if Kairi's heart has been lost, and Dorothy answers maybe, saying the situation is a lot worse this time. The last part of course being a reference to when Sora had to save the hearts of the Guardians of Light. We now return to the first couple of scenes. The voice is clearly Dorothy's, and it talks about how Sora's heart had already gone back in time to undo their first attempt. If the Coda theory is correct and Sora is going to time travel to save Kairi, he'll need a heart at the place in time he wants to travel to. This kind of fits with what is being said by Dorothy. Returning to where we left off, we can see that Sora is now on a huge circular platform with no party members. The most prominent part of this scene is of course the huge floating ball that Dark Vanitas clones rush out of. In his two fights in the game, Vanitas doesn't use this attack, so it's something added with the DLC. The next thing to be noticed is probably that Sora is wielding the Oblivion Keyblade and is in a new form called Dark Form. His clothes are mostly black, and on his hoodie he has a symbol that I can't quite make out. Given that the kanji for light is on the form change for Oathkeeper, it would be fair guess to say that the kanji for darkness is on this form. An interesting thing to notice is that there is no finish command available, so does that mean that Oblivion has two forms? When Sora blocks the incoming attack from Vanitas, we can see that his usual guard has been replaced with a barrier guard. The barrier is surrounded by chains like the one in the Oblivion Keyblade. Moving on, we see the start of a battle between Sora and Sigba on the same platform as before. Sora seems to perform something akin to a reaction command to avoid Sigba's shots. It might also be kind of a minigame, as a text saying excellent can be seen at the bottom of the screen. Sora is using the Oathkeeper Keyblade and is in its corresponding form that we might be able to guess is called Light Form, based on Oblivion's Dark Form. Both the Vanitas fight and the Sigba fight is happening at the same platform. They have the same amount of health and they both have new attacks not from the base game. All of this hints toward the inclusion of data organization like boss fights for the new organization. Taking a closer look at the floor, it's kinda hard to see the pattern clearly, but I've seen some people saying that it reminds them of Scarlet Kylum. It would be really cool if we could get an extended Scarlet Kylum in the style of Cavern of Remembrance, leading to the new Data Org fights. In the next scene we see how the fight between Aqua, Ventus, Terranaut and Vanitas started, as well as what I guess is another limit attack between Aqua and Ventus. From how that camera moves, it looks to be that Aqua is the one being played here. Ventus's part of the attack kind of reminds me of his attack on his Keyblade glider from Birth by Sleep. We're back in the Keyblade graveyard where a hooded figure is talking to young Master Xehanort. The mannerisms of the hooded figure screams Master of Masters, and the voice confirms it. He's talking about letting a false light dictate the future. I think he's referring to Kingdom Hearts. We know the true Kingdom Hearts was lost to the darkness, so maybe the Master of Masters wanted Xehanort to reset the world to get the true Kingdom Hearts back. Having the Master of Masters directly talking to Xehanort makes it abundantly clear that Xehanort was never more than a puppet, which is kind of unfortunate in my opinion. After a cut, we're in Dive to the Heart where Sora is talking to Namine. It's a bit hard to understand what exactly is going on here. My personal theory is that the cutscene is a replacement for the start conversation where Namine says she'll get help from the Lingering Will. I know it sounds a little far-fetched, but a lot of people missed that conversation, and it is pretty crucial. The world of Ocean and Sky is clearly the final world. And there he is, the Lingering Will, having a stare down with his body. This seems like a continuation of the fight where those two flew off, with the little change that ends of the Earth has been replaced by Earthshaker. I really hope we get to play as Lingering Will, but from the way those two charge at each other, I think this fight is cutscene exclusive. Now we've reached the end of the trailer, but before we end off, I want to clarify how the DLC is structured and what I think they will be about. What I've referred to as a DLC is actually made up of 4 parts. An additional story scenario called Remind, a limit cut episode, a secret episode with the boss, and the 2 new Keyblades, Oathkeeper and Oblivion, with their respective forms. I think all of the story segments about Sora from this trailer and maybe the altered Keyblade graveyard fights is from the secret episode, that is going to be about Sora finding and saving Kairi. The Xehanort conversations as well as the Sigba and Lusor conversation from last trailer is probably from the Remind scenario that explains how Xian reappeared. Finally, the potential Data Orc fights are the limit cut episode. The Keyblade and Forms DLC will be a free update. We still don't have a release date, but from the end of the trailer we can see that it says this winter, which is from December 2019 through January and February of 2020. Since it says winter and not 2019, I bet it won't release before 2020. My guess would be a release date close to when Kingdom Hearts 3 released this year. Alright, that's all I had for this video. I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.